Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NACTV. I'm Eoin Devereux, journalist with the Banner Press, welcoming you to this week's edition of the program, and joined this week by journalist Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you here this week.
Good to be here once again.
All right, let's just dive right into the newspaper and this week's edition of the paper with so many different items to discuss and so many different items of note and of interest to be able to cover in this next 30 minutes. First things first, of course, our front page. Some big ideas were spotlighted once again in Neepawa in terms of the annual What's the Big Idea program. It's an endeavor that has been ongoing for many years in Neepawa, created by Marilyn Crew for the town of Neepawa, and has gone through many different alliterations and sort of changed and adapted at times over the last several years. We were able to go down there again this year and cover it, and that's something you were able to do in your journey, as it were, this week, Casper.
I certainly did, yes. Of course, we've got the photo of everyone who participated on the front page there, all the awards, etc., etc. I mean, it was a good event. I was able to go down there for the pitching parlor and just in time to catch sort of the group photo at the end there. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay at the whole event. I mean, there's other things going on, other things I have to cover. But the pitching parlor was great, in my perspective anyway. So we have that photo on the front page, and then of course there's the full story on page 8. But there was a good sort of variety of business pitches there this year, I feel. I mean, there were some different retail ideas pertaining to sports. I mean, I had really not heard of hockey wax before, but I guess that makes sense. Just something that I don't really consider since I'm not a sports person. And then of course there was stuff more related to arts and entertainment. I mean, there was like floral stuff. There was trying to think of it now. There was like clothing, like embroidery and all of that, even cleaning services. So quite a wide variety there, and it was very interesting to see all of these people come up with their ideas and learn more about them and what exactly they are.
That's right. And for those of you that may be unsure of the experience that is What's the Big Idea, perhaps you're new to the Neepawa area, perhaps you're new to the program, the Story Behind the Stories, this is an endeavor that's been going on for many years, and it's sort of a hybrid Dragon's Den type of Shark Tank type of endeavor when it comes to entrepreneurs in and around Neepawa. These young individuals, and sometimes not so young, they come up with their ideas, their concepts, their business concepts, and they go forward and they pitch the idea to a judging panel of experts, and they get rewarded in terms of that. It's been such a tremendous sort of effort over the years to try and create so many new and different ideas. And it's been able to do that. Early on, it was just Neepawa specific. For a short period of time, it became a regional type thing with participants from Minnedosa, Carberry, I think, as well, over the years. They were able to split off and turn into their own things, which is wonderful to hear. And Neepawa has still been able to keep a strong sort of year in, year out contingent of businesses and individuals to keep coming back, which is really quite telling that the strength of the community and how it's diversifying.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, this was its 9th year, so next year is going to be a decade that it's been held, which is pretty significant, I feel. And I mean, it seems like the support for this kind of event, both from just people showing up and viewing it, and from people stepping forward with their ideas, has been quite tremendous over the years. And I mean, yeah, it's a great event for these new ideas to be highlighted and get some support going forward. I mean, this event does focus on new businesses, or maybe a business has been established for a little bit now but is looking to expand. So those local businesses just getting launched or getting support to expand their endeavors. I mean, there was one there that I believe was founded originally 2018, but they have limited space and they're looking to get a proper space for themselves, looking to expand services. So they need some support. So that was an opportunity for them to get out there and put themselves forward as well.
Really nice that they have the opportunity on a local level to be able to do something like this and to be able to endeavor and try and move forward in their business in this way. All right, if you want to learn a little bit more, some specifics about the award winners and their businesses, Casper's got a full story, as they said, on page 8 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. And of course, on the front page, you can see the picture there, and it shows the diversity of all the different business ideas. So hopefully you are able to support it by picking up a paper, learning a little bit about it, and who knows, maybe a little bit down the line, helping all these entrepreneurs with your dollars. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. We're going to go inside the pages of the Banner Press. We're going to talk about a story that is one we've covered very much over the last 2 or 3 years, one we've talked about a lot, and one, unfortunately, we knew an update was going to be coming. I think we all knew this update was going to be coming, and maybe we didn't want it to. I am talking, of course, on page 2 of this week's edition, the decision by the provincial government to not move ahead with the concept of the P3 model for the development of new schools in Manitoba, including a vocational high school that had been promised for Neepawa. They're not going to move ahead with it. For those of you that may not remember, I'm going to read this to you right now. The P3 model was something that came up with the previous government. The Conservative government that was in came up with this concept. It is a hybrid of private and public sort of concept in which private companies build these schools. They get leased out, as it were, to the government on a 30-year funding agreement, and they take care of it from there. It was supposed to be a way to get these schools put together in a quicker manner, to get these schools operational much sooner than they would under the old funding setup. Again, this was set up by the previous government, the Progressive Conservatives, and the current government, the NDP, have decided to review it, go over it, and decided that it was not, in their opinion, in their best interests of the province and the people to go forward with this hybrid. Let's not turn this into a political thing here, whether you wear a blue tie, whether you wear an orange tie. Let's just not get into it on that level. Having said that, it is admittedly disappointing that we are not going to be able to get this school, a much needed school, in the community of Neepawa by the 2025 deadline that had been previously put out there. Whether it had been the call of the Conservatives, whether it had been a call of the NDP, heck, even if the Liberals somehow got in on a provincial level, and they, Casper, they never do well on a provincial level.
Yeah, so that I've seen.
Yeah, even if they were calling the shots there, it doesn't matter who did it, they did it. It's unfortunate for all those communities. It was 9 different schools that were going to be set up throughout the province. We're focusing specifically on Neepawa. But they have promised, I very much want to stress this, they have promised that this is not the end of schools in these communities. This is just a different way of going about it. They're going to most likely go back to the sort of standard funding structure of these types of schools, in which the government takes care of it pretty much all themselves. And that most likely, that definitively will push back the date in which we likely are going to be able to open up a new vocational high school in Neepawa. Most likely that's probably going to occur, if we're hopeful, if we're lucky, if we're fortunate, by about 2027. It is what it is. So I had an opportunity to speak with representatives from the town of Neepawa, as well as the Beautiful Plains School Division on this. Obviously, there is disappointment to be had in regard to this, but there is still strong determination. There is still optimism that there will be a new school, a very necessary school, in Neepawa sooner rather than later. You can read the story, it's on page 2, and you can form your own opinions on it, your own thoughts on it, whether you think it's a good idea, whether you think it's a bad idea to get rid of this hybrid concept. Let's take a minute or two, actually, before we go on to our next one. Let's just throw this out there. It's just between you and me and Casper. That's the story behind the stories. I understand completely why the NDP government did this. I can understand their reservations behind the hybrid model. It's something that hasn't been done before in Manitoba. It's been done in other places. It's been done in the United States, but it hasn't been done here. So I can understand them being a little, perhaps justifiably anxious about trying something like this with something so important as children's education. Having said that, I wish there was more that was shared publicly in terms of this is the plan we're going to move forward with, this is how we're going to fund it, and this is the timeline we hope to do it. In essence, all that came out was we're not doing it this way. We will do it another way. We just haven't said yet what way. That's disappointing to me. That's extremely disappointing to me. Also disappointing to me as well, and again, this is just my opinion, it doesn't have to be yours, it's not NACTV's, it's not the Banner Presses. So if I get in trouble, it's all on me. But what really disappoints me, and I didn't have it in the story, is that the school division, the town, for the most part, you want to know how they found out about this? From me. There was no call, there was no email, there was no contact whatsoever between the province and all the organizations and individuals that were affected by this. Essentially, it was a sort of a release that was put out there on a midweek and just left to lie. I have to thank, I wish I could say I broke the story, but I can't say I broke the story. We learned about it just like everybody else learned about it. CBC Winnipeg, who do a tremendous job of this type of stuff, was able to get the story, and I read about it on a Thursday night, actually, Casper. I'm at home, I'm having dinner, I'm setting up dinner, and I'm just scrolling through my feed, and it's like, oh, what? Oh, geez. Okay, I know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I'm going to be making a bunch of phone calls. And it's disappointing to me that when I make those phone calls and I send those emails, that the first question I asked was, when did you find out about it? When did the province contact you in regard to this? And the answer was, they didn't. That's extremely disappointing. Again, like I said, I didn't really delve into that portion of it because sometimes your opinion, we try to keep the opinion out of the paper as much as possible. Opinion belongs on page 4 and page 5 of the Banner Press. And those are the only places in the paper where there should be any opinion. Every other page should be just, this is the facts. These are this. This is it. That's all. So, but that's why we have this show. Because I can just spout off about anything I want and just go, my ravings and whatnot, I can just go off on that. It's really quite
30 minutes.
It's really quite therapeutic, to be honest with you. But that's my opinion. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But that's the disappointing part about it, is that the connection, the translation, the giving the message to those that needed the message wasn't there. How the hell? Sorry. I got to put $1 in the swear jar. How the heck do you do that and govern? That I don't agree with. But let me throw this over to you, Casper. If you have any sort of thoughts on that, you know, I'll give you 2 minutes to go off.
No, I definitely understand that. And I agree. I mean, when it comes to major announcements, you want people that should be in the know about it right away to be in the know about it right away. Because, well, that's important. They're involved in this process, right? And then, of course, the other part of it, too, being, you know, these developments, just straight as the developments, are important to the communities that they were and are eventually going to be in. I mean, they're very much needed. There's always space needed in schools. So this was going to be a very welcome addition to those communities and our community too. So for those to be pushed back is disappointing. It is comforting that they're going to be still moving forward in some way. But like Eoin said, I wish we had more details at this moment as to how that was going to happen. Because again, it was just sort of, we're not doing it this way. That's all it kind of said. So I'm hoping we'll get those details soon. That would be really nice. And honestly, the sooner the better, because I know this is going to be a question at the top of everybody's minds. And, I just hope that it won't get pushed back too far.
Yep. And again, just one quick clarification for you as well. It's not like this came completely and utterly out of the blue. Because in terms of dealing with the province and the provincial government, both Neepawa, the school division have said that they felt strongly that this was the way they were leaning. Over the last few months, over the last several months, they said that this is the way they feel like it's going to go. So this didn't come out of the blue in terms of that. This isn't any surprise for anyone who's involved in the day-to-days for this. But just the fact that when it was finally official, there was no interaction. I find that personally to be disappointing. Mm-hmm. I understand their reasoning for it. I understand their reasoning for making the decision. But when you make the decision, you got to kind of share the decision with the people that are being impacted by that decision. Maybe I'm wrong.
Just a bit more communication, perhaps, yes.
Crazy. That's insanity.
Imagine.
But if you want to learn the details on this, you can find this story on page 2 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. I am very sure we're going to continue to talk about this story as it develops through 2025 into 2027. And hopefully just into 2027. I don't want to be talking about a new potential school in the year 2030. That's not cool. Well, I guess we'll wait and see. All right, let's shift gears. Let's get to a little more positivity about this week's edition of the newspaper. If you go inside on one of the color pages, I'm very pleased to have been able to share this story with you in regards to the Salvation Army, the Community Ministry Center, and the expansion of the food bank in the town of Neepawa. They have a plan in place. They're going to be expanding into where the former pet store used to be located there, over on Mountain there, the former old co-op building, as it were. And that costs a fair bit of money. Fortunately, our local credit union, Stride Credit Union, with Concentra Bank, which is a national bank, which sort of covers... To explain it in its basis, it's almost like it's a credit union for the credit unions type thing. Every year on a national level, they give out around $10,000 per donation to local credit unions to give to local groups that are in need. And this year, through that endeavor, Stride Credit Union is able to donate $10,000 to the expansion of the food bank. I was able to go down there, get some pictures with some representatives from the credit union, with some representatives from the food bank, from Salvation Army, and to learn a little bit about it. I'm very pleased that this was able to go through. And it was all instigated really from one individual who sort of started the process. Let me just look here just to refresh my memory. It was a former employee, actually, for the Salvation Army who was moved on to the credit union, Amanda Lodge. She learned about this endeavor on a national level and thought, this is something exactly up the alley for the Salvation Army and for community ministries. So she put in a nomination for it, and she had no expectations whatsoever. Canada's a big country, and there's a lot of groups throughout Canada that need a little bit of help. So there's no expectation on her part that we would be one of the ones selected. So she was pleasantly surprised to learn that Neepawa was one of those ones that are going to be getting this support, because it couldn't go to a greater organization or a better cause. They're trying to do this shopping style expansion on the food bank where you go in, it's almost like it's a Safeway or a co-op where you pick your own stuff, as it were. And it's a shopping experience. It creates dignity in the experience. So many people have a certain mindset when it comes to having to use a food bank. And quite honestly, if you have that mindset, if you have that thought process, pick it up and just throw it out the window. Because considering what's gone on in the last 5 years and the level of inflation that's come about and the cost of everything going up the way it has, there are people you wouldn't think would need to use a food bank that need to use a food bank. And there is no dishonor in that. That's just the reality of it. And Neepawa is affected by that. The number of people, the number of families in Neepawa that have to use the food bank now, I am genuinely surprised and genuinely upset by that fact. Not anything against the food bank, they're helpful, but the fact that we're at a place right now where there are so many families that have to use it locally. And I wish that weren't the case. Quite honestly, I wish we didn't need a food bank. But we do need one, and we need an expanded one. And they're moving forward on this, and I say very much kudos to them on that. Check it out. It's on page 9 of this week's paper. I'm very glad to be able to share that with you. Let me throw over to you, Casper, on that, if you want to chime in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, I think you've said it really well. I don't think I have too much to add. I mean, it is fantastic that Neepawa Community Ministry Center / Salvation Army is getting this kind of support, and specifically for this expansion. I mean, this is something that we have kind of had an inkling about, heard a little bit about previously, and we're sort of just waiting to get officials on this and some more updates and all that. So to have this update, a very positive update, is fantastic. And I mean, just seeing this come in for them, because every little bit helps. Not saying that 10,000 is a little bit, that's a significant amount, but every little bit does add up in any sort of fashion when it comes to things like this. I mean, providing assistance for those who need it. And like Eoin said, it's going to be an addition that adds another level of dignity, which is exactly what this group has been striving to do over the past few years or so. And again, it is unfortunate that we have this need in our community, but it's fantastic that we have this service available in our community and that they're doing everything that they can to help those who need it, because there's people of all different levels who need to access these services.
All right, you want to learn a little bit more? As I said, you can find it on page 9 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. Let's take a quick road trip down the way to Minnedosa. We're going to learn about a business in that community, one that is sort of making some change. And Casper, you've got the details on that one this week.
Yeah, this is one that sort of was a little bit of a learning experience for me, because there was a business that I myself wasn't familiar with, just not being from Minnedosa, but also I don't really delve into that sort of business really too often. But this had to do with one I am familiar with, Inspire Studio. I've done a couple stories on them in the past. And the business in question, Flowers on Main. So this story is actually a bit of a change of hands. So Flowers on Main is actually going to be, or is, I should say, sold to Inspire Studio. I had the opportunity to speak with Marlise Soltis, of course, the owner of Inspire, and then Tammy, I believe it was Tammy Galler, the owner of Flowers on Main, and get a bit of her history as well, learn a bit more about Flowers on Main, how long the business has been in service, and quite a while, let me tell you. And just sort of the perspectives and the whys and everything that goes into these businesses merging and coming together, and what that is going to look like for those who do go to Inspire. And on Tammy's part, I mean, she said, it was just time to step back. I've done this for X number of years. I do have specifics in the story, so definitely take a look at that. But she said, I did this for a number of years, and then, of course, working multiple jobs for the past 6. Just wanted to take a step back from this one, focus on this one other specific job, and take some more time with the family. And for Marlise and her husband there, it was kind of a no-brainer. It just kind of fit just right, because number one, they've seen firsthand what sort of passion and dedication that Tammy has had to her business, and they've had personal experience with her customers as well, because they've had a partnership over the past few years, offering her services through Inspire Studio as well. And they were like, we want to keep this here. We want to keep this in our store, but also in the community. We want to make sure that this service stays here. So they worked with Tammy, and they've dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and that's going to be making some changes at Inspire throughout the Christmas closure that they're going to have. And it's going to be a little bit of an extended closure, just to make sure that they have everything rearranged and repainted as they need it to be.
Most likely this is going to be a story that we're going to be following up going into the new year. So congratulations to everyone involved on that, and best of luck with the continued ongoing efforts of the new owners on that. All right, we only got a few minutes left, so we're just going to dive it through for a couple things specifically here. Now, we got a special feature in this week's edition of the Banner Press. Hockey season has officially begun for the NACI Tigers. The high school hockey team has started their regular season, and they are also going to be hosting their annual Slasher Showdown hockey tournament over the Halloween weekend. Now, it's just going to be happening just immediately after Halloween on the 1st and 2nd of November. It's an annual tournament. This is the 25th anniversary this year, actually, of the Slasher Showdown. So not only have kids been involved in it on the high school level for years, but most likely they've grown up. They've got their own families, and most likely, potentially, they've got their own kids that are now participating in the Slasher Showdown. So it's a tradition for Neepawa, a tradition for the Yellowhead Center. We have a listing of all the games scheduled on the 1st and 2nd. If you're a fan of hockey, or even if you're just a supporter of NACI, go down to the arena and support them in any way, shape, or form you can. As well, we've got a bracket, a listing of all the different players for this year's edition of the hockey team. We got 8 returning players, and we have 8 new players this year as well. They made a big deal about this in the back there. And there are 2, including 2 new female players who are a part of the team as well. Of course, NACI has had female players on there before, but it's been a while. I think for the first time in the 10 years I've been here in Neepawa, they've had 2 female players who have made the team. So wonderful to see that once again, although it is something that they have done many a year in the past. So congratulations to them, and hopefully it's going to be a great season and a great tournament for the NACI Tigers. There's so much more we could talk about, but there's only so much time. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the Neepawa Titans winning 2 of 3 at home, or the Neepawa Gladstone Co-op having their AGM, a history, a look back at the Beautiful Plains archives, some of the council things that have been going on. But of course, that's why you got to pick up a copy of the Banner Press, so you can see it for yourself. Always remember, there are 30 different communities throughout Western Manitoba that have physical copies of the Banner Press. And if you don't have access to it readily available to you, always remember, every Friday at around 9 a.m. Central Time, it goes live on mywestman.ca. Don't forget, on mywestman.ca, we got a version of the paper in PDF form. You can flip through it on your computer. That whole technology thing, I don't know how it works. You know, it's lasers are involved or something like that. You know?
Something, right?
Yeah. It's cool because it's got lasers. Much like this. I assume lasers are sort of working on this camera thing right now. But other than that, that's why you got to pick it up. And always remember, if you have any story suggestions for us, we always appreciate it. You can give us a call right here at the Banner Press at 476-3401, or email us at news@neepawabanner.com. That pretty much wraps it up for this week. Casper, as always, thank you very much. I know you've got a big story next week. We're going to tease it a little bit for you for Remembrance Day. Big news for next week. So,
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you always got to remember to tune in each and every week to the story behind the stories. We'll see you again next week.